Hey, good morning or good afternoon, Watch Report fanatics. This is Ariel Soltero with WatchReport.com coming to you today with a pretty cool watch. But before I get started on the review, do want to make sure that you like us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. All right, with that being said, let's get right into it. This watch that I'm holding right here is the Citizen ProMaster Aqualand Depth Meter, which is a mouthful for sure. The model number on this one is B as in boy, N as in Nora, 2024-05E as in Edward. Now this watch debuted in Basel 2014, and I think it's one that's going to make big waves and a big splash among the dive watch enthusiasts. This is a no frills dive watch, guys. This doesn't claim to be anything else. It's not a watch that I believe that you're going to wear to the boardroom on any consistent basis. Again, this is a tool diver. On many watch forums, people always want to know the definition of a tool diver, and I think that this is it. So, a little bit of history on Citizen. Everybody talks about the history of Seiko, but really, Citizen has a really nice history as well. It kind of emerged in the 1900s, 1918 or so to be exact, and it's definitely continues to live a very decorated watch life. It has a lot of industry first in the 1970s and 80s, and emerged as a front runner in the quartz wars, if you want to call it. Now, 1985, the first depth gauge comes out. This is an Aqualand model, so it is a depth gauge model as well, so that's why I direct you back to that actual date. 1995, EcoDrive technology comes out, and again, it becomes one of the most popular watches around with the EcoDrive technology. All right, so let's talk about the specs on this big boy right here. Now, your case diameter is very cylindrical looking, kind of like the puck or the tuna. 52.5 millimeters. Now, I have a 7.5 inch wrist. You'll see some of the wrist shots in the actual pictorial review. It doesn't really wear that big. I know that it's kind of surprising for me to say that since it is a 52.5 millimeter watch. But you'll see that it really doesn't wear that big. Again, I don't think it's for for people that have a 6-inch wrist, but again, somewhere in between, I think it's something that you can definitely pull off. Now, the case height, you're looking at 18.5 millimeters, lug size 24 millimeters. The strap is rubber, it is a polyurethane. We'll talk about that here in a little bit. Movement EcoDrive technology. Your crystal, mineral glass with anti-reflective coating. I think that they could have done a little better on that, but again, definitely not a deal breaker by any means. Water resistance, 200 meter certifications. You're going to have your ISO compliance at 6425, and 950 is going to be the retail price. So let's dive right in to this watch because there's a lot to talk about. As far as the packaging, you're going to get it in its traditional two-piece cylindrical Citizen case. I would have liked them to have upped it a little more for this type of watch. Something like what the Omega Ploprof comes in, something like a wetsuit box or something like that. But again, not a deal killer as we're actually buying the watch and not the box. All right, the dial on this model does seem to be a little cluttered, but everything is for a purpose. So the reason I put the handset in this position and I have it stopped, as you see, is just so I can try to explain everything as best as possible. You'll see over here by the 9 o'clock position, kind of where my finger's pointing to right now, that's going to be your EcoDrive fuel gauge. Basically lets you know that the watch is powered. It looks like a fuel gauge on your vehicle. F for full, E for empty. So, with that being said, you'll notice that this watch is fully powered at this particular time. Even when I push in the crown, you'll see that it's fully powered. So, at the 3 o'clock position, you're going to have your date. We'll kind of just loosely talk about that since, again, it's just a date window at the 3 o'clock position. But on the inside of that, you'll see a little bitty triangle. That's going to be your start position on your particular dive, right? So you have your blue hand right here. That is going to be your hand for your current dive. And underneath it, I'm going to get the hands to move here in just a second. Let me push it in. Push it back out. You're going to see that hand right there winding counterclockwise at this point in time. That's your max depth gauge. Now what Citizen did is it color coded the hands to let you know that blue equals depth and green lume equals time. So it has to do with time. So when you see blue loom, you know that you're looking at something that has to do with depth. All right. So to make sure that we understand it, the blue hand at the top, that's going to be your current dive. So let's just say you go to 10 meters, then that hand is going to go over here to the 10-meter mark. Now the bottom hand, it comes preset with 60 meters from the factory, but let's just say that particular day that you've never reset it in any way, shape, or form, and you did a 30-meter dive, so that hand is going to record a 30-meter dive. And until you use this particular screw down pusher at the 8 o'clock position to reset it, then it'll stay at that 30-meter position, letting you know that that has been your max depth before it's been changed. All right, so skeletonized hands, the reason that that Citizen skeletonized the hands, I'll show you here quickly, is that way if they overlap, it's not overlapping your actual descent or your actual depth for that day. So again, pretty cool. I think Citizen thought of all of it. Now, as far as the loom, again, we talked about it, but blue loom equals depth, and then green loom equals time. All right, I'm going to use this hand right here to point at something that I think that I want to make a real quick mention of, but something that should be mentioned, of course. Again, this hand that I'm using has nothing to do with depth. I'm using it as a pointer. So at the 3 o'clock position, that means that that's where your dive is starting, and it goes into 5-meter increments. So right there would be 5 meters, 10 meters, 15 meters, 20 meters, etc. And what Citizen did is they used wide spacing for that, so that way you didn't have to pay too much attention to it when you're below the sea wearing a mask and all that type of stuff. Now you notice that once it gets past the 40, it begins in 10-meter increments. So it goes from 40 to 50 to 60 and to 70. So something that you should just be made aware of. It took me a little bit to actually realize that the spacing wasn't equal. All right, so we've talked about that. The chapter ring, which you'll see as I'm using this as a guide, is a really nice deep chapter ring. I like it a lot. Again, it adds a lot of dimension to the actual dial. Pretty cool in my book. As far as the EcoDrive technology that sits in this watch, it's going to have a solar panel that's sitting below the dial, and it's going to actually capture light energy. 35 hours worth of light energy will equate to about 300 hours of stored energy. So, got that out of the way. Again, this is a watch that you're going to have to play with, guys. I'm trying to get as much as I can in a 10 to 12 minute video, but it is something that you're going to have to play with. But just know that everything on this watch was designed with a diver in mind. All right, as far as the bezel, you have what they call a corrugated bezel. It's got really nice big teeth on it. The reason they did that is so that way you can grip the watch easily when you're wearing gloves. Turns really nice. I'll give it a couple turns here. Now the only thing that's loomed on this actual bezel is going to be the pip. Okay, so you do have a loom pip, really nice for diving and whatnot. So pretty nice. It is a DLC coated bezel. The Allen screws that you see are just for looks. As far as the case, it is a 2-piece case. They call it a clamshell design. You'll see depth meter right there. Now, real quick, let's talk about the functionality and why you have these holes, the crowns and the screw down pushers. So, this particular pinhole right here, this gold colored pinhole, is a water sensor. It just lets the watch know that, hey, I'm in the water. All right, so that's what that does. Now you're gonna have your screw down crown here. It is, I like to call it rifling. It has a diamond-like pattern on it. That way, it's really easy for you to turn. All right, it's gonna have the ProMaster logo, as you can see, flashing right there on the screen. Moving on, you're gonna have your first screw down pusher. It's gonna be in the 8 o'clock position. What that particular screw down pusher does is it allows you to reset the max depth meter. All right, allows you to reset it. If not, it'll stay at wherever it was that your last dive was. Now, this particular piece of equipment right here, I think it reminds me of my grandma's old rotary phone. That right there is your water pressure sensor. and then you come to the pusher at the 10 o'clock position. What that does is it allows you to set your rapid ascent alarm. All right, these are obviously things that you're going to have to kind of play with, and again, it's gonna work for the diver in all of us. So, all right, as far as the band, 24 millimeters, I anticipate that that the makers of the adapters will start to devise a plan to get some type of other straps on there. But again, until they do, this is a really nice strap. It is polyurethane. Let me move it over here, guys. I apologize. You can get Citizen to flash there on the screen. It has a really nice heavy-duty Tang-like buckle. It's going to have a stationary keeper. It's going to have your floating keeper right there. And as far as the other end, it's going to have a little bit of a flange right there. The reason that they did that is so that way when it goes through the actual keeper, if I can get it to go there, you'll notice I got to put a little bit of emphasis. If I have to put a little bit of emphasis for it to go in, obviously I'd have to put a little emphasis for it to come out. They did that again with the thought in mind that they don't want the watch coming off when you're diving. Caseback is a real just bland-like caseback. I don't think they left anything out. One thing that I would have liked for me to have seen, I'm a caseback junkie, so I would have loved to have them kept something like the Ecozilla, like that dive helmet, the early dive helmet that that the divers wore, or just something like that. But again, everything that you need is on here. You understand that it's an anti-magnetic watch made in Japan. It's got all the good stuff on it. All right, so I think that we've really talked about everything in the watch, and I understand that with that being said, and I was trying to be as quick as possible, you could see why the watch is a complicated watch. It does have a lot of complications on it, but it's something that, again, is going to be a pleasure once you're actually diving with it. So give it some time, learn everything that this watch has to offer. My review will shed a little bit more light on it. But I think it's definitely one that is going to be a favorite in your collection. Now, is it going to be as iconic as its cousin, the Ecozilla? I'm not sure, but I can tell you that from my personal time of wearing this particular watch, I think that it's definitely well underway to being a really, really good watch, and I think it's going to live up to its predecessors. So, hope you've enjoyed my review. This is Ariel Soltura signing off with WatchReport.com. Make sure to follow me on my next video when I review another watch that you'll love to wear. Thanks a lot and have a great day.